Namaste. Thank you for listening to me. Today, I would like to talk about a topic very close to my heart, and that's about the war that goes on in our heads, with ourselves. We're constantly fighting ourselves. We're constantly attacking ourselves, shaming ourselves. And once you start on the spiritual path, the meditation path, this war becomes even more obvious. It's like the whole dam breaks loose, and you get attacked by so many negative thoughts, and you're like, "Where did this come from?" The problem is the negative thoughts were always there. It's only when you start walking on the spiritual/meditation path that you become aware of them. So today I was specifically going to talk about the inner war inside of us. And I'll be using the Gita as a background. I won't be talking about the Gita much. I won't be doing a commentary on that. But I'll be using the metaphor of a war. So the Gita, which is an ancient Indian scripture, I think one of the oldest ones. It's a poem. It's written as a poem. It's a spiritual scripture. And those of you who don't know about it. It starts in the war. So the very first scene is that our hero Arjun is standing in a battlefield and is looking at his enemies, most of whom are his relatives, his cousins and uncles and his friends from childhood, his teachers. And he's supposed to fight against them and supposed to kill them. And he feels disgusted with himself and he throws down his weapons and he says, "I won't fight." And the next part is either the most controversial or the most common sense thing. The teacher, the guide, the representative of the divine intelligence, who in this case is Krishna, says to him, "No, you must fight." And in fact, Krishna goes one step ahead and calls him a coward. He says, "Stop acting like a coward, unmanly. Stop acting in an unmanly way and get up and fight." And this is controversial because people say, "Oh, he's encouraging war and he's encouraging blah, 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 blah. Encouraging war, war is bad," because the stuff that Arjuna says, "War is bad, I shouldn't fight," that's the stuff all the hippies say, right? So you think the response would be a hippie response, but it's not. And there are many ways to interpret this. I won't go into all of them. I'll go into the mental part of it. So in our mind, we have the same sort of war running on at all time. As soon as we start, well, the war is running on at all times, and we try to hide from the pain. Like Arjuna, we throw down the weapon and say, "Oh, it's too much, I can't deal with it." Because that's what life is, right? Life is like a war. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't need to be, but it is because of the way we think and the way we interact with the world. It's not, like I said, it doesn't have to be a war. So if we have this war going on in our mind and we try to hide from the world, by using drugs or alcohol or sex or pornography or social media as a way to hide from ourselves. And if you start on the spiritual path, this pain becomes obvious, this war becomes obvious, and you realize how much crap you've got going on in your mind. And you realize you can't just hide from it, you have to face it. And that's the challenge that Arjuna faces, that he's got his enemies in front of them and he doesn't want to fight them. He'd rather be sitting on a couch with a beer in his hand watching TV something, reruns of Love Island or something. he doesn't want to be out there fighting and killing, especially his own relatives, but he has been forced to. He's standing. That's literally his challenge. And we face the same challenge every day in ourselves. There are parts of ourselves that we have to fight. There are parts of the outer world we hate, but we have to go ahead and do it anyway. You might hate your work, but you have to still go to work. You might hate your school, but you still have to go to school. And we face this constant battle, this constant inner war. And the war disgusts us. Because Arjuna, when he throws down his weapons, he says, "These are my relatives, my cousins, I cannot fight them. Why should I fight them?" It's the same with us, when we start to meditate, when we start on the spiritual path. We are fighting our own negativity, our own hatred, self-loathing and hatred. But in a way, all this hatred and negativity, it was created by us. So in a way, it's like our own children or our own brothers and sisters. So we are literally fighting ourselves. So let's step back a little. So one of the characters on the Mahabharata, which is which is a big book it's a big, thick, longest poem in the world. And the Gita, the small chapter of it. And one of the characters is the blind king. He's blind, and the Gita starts when he asks for a status on what's going on in the war, what's happening around there, and his assistants sort of starts telling him. So we have the same problem. The blind king lives in all of us. It's the ego. The ego is blind, and the ego is insane, and it's full of hate and self-loathing. And this is the enemy we have to fight, the blind king, the ego inside of us. So when we start on the spiritual path, in our mind, we've got all these thoughts running around pretending to be us. There's one thought that says, I'm Shantanu. There's another thought that says, I'm a father. Another says, I'm this. Another says, I'm very smart, I'm intelligent. Another thought says, I'm very good looking, which is true, obviously. Yeah. And all these thoughts are fighting with each other, because some of the thoughts say, actually, no, you're not good looking. You're a fat, ugly bastard. You're a disgusting human being. Another thought says, oh, you're a useless person. Another thought says, oh, I'm so angry all the time. Why can't I meditate? Another thought says, no, I'm a great person. I'm the best in the world. And you've got all these different thoughts. Some say you're good, some say you're bad, and they're fighting to control your mind, to control your brain, and to control, your destiny. And the blind king is sort of the boss of them all. He's the one who created them all. He's the father of them all. And so when we say, in some Buddhist circles, they say everything is void, there's nothing there. What they mean is that ultimately we attach our self, our ego, to external things, to thoughts. I say, I'm this house is mine, this car is mine, this wife is mine. And I say, we cling to that. We cling to the house, the car, our body, our mind, our whatever, and we cling to it. And we have these thoughts running in our head, and these thoughts pretend to be us, but they're not actually the real us. The real ourself is being of extreme joy and bliss. It's a universal intelligence. It's something bigger than us. That's a real self of us. But we've forgotten who we are. We have started thinking we are this mind, this body. So in ourself, we've got all these different thoughts running around, pretending to be us. And that's one day you might be feeling happy because, you ate something tasty and you saw a good movie, and the thought inside of you is, yeah, I feel good. The next day something says bad to you, and another thought comes and says, oh, I'm angry, I'm insulted, this person is so mean. But they're both thoughts, right? It's just a thought in your... I'm so good, I'm so smart is a thought in your head. But I'm selfish, I'm useless, nobody loves me. That's also a thought in your head. And our biggest problem is that we think these thoughts are us. I'm not saying the thoughts of the mind is bad. I'm just saying that it's not us. We identify with random thoughts. They're just like bubbles on the water. If you boil water, bubbles come up. But the water is not the bubbles. The water is more than that. In the same way, the thoughts come up in our mind, but they're not us. But we identify with those thoughts. And we create this false self, this illusionary self. When the Eastern philosophies like Zen and Advaita say that the world is an illusion, they don't literally mean it's an illusion. It's a world that we see and we create with our mind is an illusion, because we don't see the real world at all. We are wearing glasses all the time. They can be rosy glasses in which everything is fine, everything is happy, or they can be shit covered specs in which you say, oh, everything is bad, the whole world is evil, the evil corporations are destroying everything, everybody is bad, everyone's evil. Yeah, so you're just wearing these glasses and you're seeing the world through those glasses. And the world that you're seeing is fake, it's an illusion, because it's your own mind. You're not seeing the real world, you're seeing a projection of your mind outside. Yeah, your mind projects outside. You see that. If you're full of hateful thoughts, you'll start seeing hateful people everywhere. Yeah, if you're full of lustful thoughts, you'll start seeing lustful people everywhere. If you think everyone is an asshole, you'll start seeing assholes everywhere. And if you think people are good at their basic, you'll start seeing good people everywhere. That's why, gratitude and forgiveness, these exercises are so powerful, because they train you to see a better version of the world. Now, it's still not the real world, but at least, instead of seeing shit everywhere, you're seeing the good in people and the good in... That makes you happy as well, because you're seeing yourself reflected in them. So it's not just a spiritual thing, it's also a good psychological technique. You're taking off your shit colors spectacles and throwing them away. Now, as long as you're informed, you will have to wear some sort of glasses. But what you can do is you can make them clearer and clearer, so you're seeing the world as it is. You're not judging the world. You're constantly not, putting your opinion on that. My boss is an asshole. My wife doesn't love me. The kids don't respect me. You're constantly putting your interpretation on the world. And that's a world you see, which is a fake world because it's your own mind. You don't see the real. And what's this got to do with the Gita? So once you start meditating, once you start on this path, the spiritual path, and you don't have to start in meditation. You can start with just reading spiritual texts or just chanting or just doing yoga, anything. Once you start anything, you start creating positive, loving thoughts inside of you. These thoughts come from your real self, from your divine self. These are the children of the your divine self. And the ego, it hates them. It's like it turns laser, because these thoughts, they challenge the power of the ego, and the ego really hates them, and it tries its best to crush them. That's why when you start meditating, you'll say, oh, this is not working, this is all crap, I don't understand, no, this is working, I've been meditating for 2 hours and I don't feel peaceful. That's the ego fighting back at you. It'll try to convince you it's not working. Just quit, man. You're not good enough. Go back to what you were doing. Or you start thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, it's not for me, maybe I'll do it next week, I'll do it better when I'm feeling better, I'll meditate then. That's the ego striking back at you. But if you continue, the ego throws all its weapons, and that's where the war starts, the inner war starts, that the Gita is hinting to. So you got some thoughts inside of you that come from the divine self. They're still very weak, and they're very few. And then you got this big chunk of, hateful thoughts that you've been gathering your whole life. And these decide that they've had enough, and they decide to attack you. And the inner war starts. So one other key thing in the Gita is, Krishna is a representative of the divine intelligence. Okay. And I'm going to piss some people off, but I don't see Krishna as a god or anything. I think it's stupid to consider him a god, because he says in the Gita, I'm not God, he says, I'm in everything and everything is in me. So he's a representative of the divine intelligence, the divine universal intelligence, that at that point comes through this one body and starts speaking through it. I'm sure Krishna is very intelligent. He was a representative of the divine intelligence, just like Jesus was, just like all the other beings was. But there was nothing special about him, because we all have that divine intelligence inside of us. Everything that Krishna or Jesus has, we have that as well. And by putting these people, on a pedestal and, worshipping them, oh, you're so God. That's the ego's game, because that's the ego likes. It's like, oh, these people are God. I'm nothing. I'm not worthy of your love, God. Oh, and this is a form of arrogance. Ego thinks that it's being humble. Oh, I'm nothing. God is everything. But this is the biggest arrogant thing the ego does, because it says, I'm here. God is over there. I can never reach over there. We're always going to be separate from the divine, self. That way the ego gets to keep its power. It says, yeah, Jesus or Krishna or Buddha can be perfect or, loving and compassionate because they are enlightened, godly beings. Not me. I'm just a poor little, selfish guy. I can't be like that. No. And it pretends to be spiritual, but it's actually very arrogant, and it's protecting its domain. So be very careful of, fake humbleness. You are divine. You have the same power, the same spark that every enlightened person before you has, and you have access to the same wisdom, the same knowledge. And if anyone tells you that you're not, and that you need to go to some guru or to some god or some to ask for intelligence, spiritual awakening, my advice is get some. I was going to say something that's not be politically correct. Grow some balls. Even if you're a woman, grow some spiritual balls. Stand up for yourself, and stand proud. You have the same power to, you have the same access, the same power of the divine that everybody else had before you. You just have to stand up and take that power. Anyway, that was a bit of a detour. So in this Mahabharata, Krishna, he doesn't, even in the historical Krishna, he was considered an excellent fighter. He was one of the best fighters. But in this war, he refuses to fight. He says, I'll just be your chariot driver. I'm just going to drive your chariot. And this itself is a very in one of the Upanishads, there's this it says that our senses and our mind, our eyes and our nose, the five senses we have, seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, all these five, and the mind, they're like wild horses. They all want to run in different directions. Eyes wants to go here, this, and we are out of control. We're like we try to control these wild horses. Says the master, the teacher is, or the awakened being is one who can control the senses like a good charioteer, like a good driver. Good master controls his horses. He doesn't let them go run wherever they want to. He wants them to go where he wants them to go. So in the Gita, Krishna says, "I'll be your chariot driver. I won't fight for you. I'll guide you in where you need to go." So in a way, Krishna is saying, "Hey, I'll help you guide your senses. I'll help you guide your mind, where it needs to go. But I won't fight for you. You have to fight your own battle." And this is it's a very powerful thing. The divine intelligence will help us. It'll be a guide. In a way, it'll be a servant, because chariot drivers were considered servant class, right? They were very low on the social status. They were like literally drivers in our modern time. And Krishna, in this historical Mahabharata, he was a king. So for a king to become a chariot driver is like the biggest insult ever. It's like there is a president of America driving Uber taxis or something. Donald Trump driving somebody in an Uber. That's a nice thought. Anyway, so Krishna is saying that the whole divine intelligence, this master intelligence, it'll come and guide us. It'll tell us where to go, what to do. It'll help us control our senses, but it won't fight our battle for us. We need to do that ourselves. And this is the inner war inside of us. And the reason we need to fight it ourselves is because this mess, this hard, harmful thoughts, this blind king, the ego, it is our child. We created that. And if we fight ourselves, we lose. So we have to make our own peace. When I say war, it's not like I'm talking about an inner war, which might be as simple as fighting the war, might be as simple as just practicing loving compassion each day. For being compassionate to yourself, practicing gratitude, thanking the universe and everyone around you. Might be simple as sitting in 2 minutes, just 2 minutes for meditation. It might be so simple as reading a spiritual text that inspires you and guides you out of your negative thinking. So all these things are part of the inner war. It doesn't literally have to be a war. Then in this war, the universe will guide us. It'll tell us what to do, where to go. The fact that you're listening to this, my video now, or my audio now, shows that your own higher self is guiding you towards this. Your own higher self saying, "Dude," or "Gal, you need to listen to this now." And I'm not saying this is the best advice ever, because there's no such thing as perfect advice. For each person, there's going to be different advice. Each stage in your life, you'll need different type of advice. Some stages you might need very intellectual, the world is an illusion, and other times you might need to, practice loving compassion. Sometimes you need to sit and meditate. Sometimes you might have to go out in the world and do, help your brothers and sisters. And it depends for each person. And it depends over your life. So today, your own higher self wants you to learn this. And it brought you here. And that's your lesson for today. And your inner self will guide you. If you need a particular teaching, it happens to me. I'll be sitting on Amazon. I'll be reading about, looking for some, zombie book or something science fiction-y and nothing to do with spirituality. And I'm just going clicking buttons, click, 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 click. And then suddenly, after 5 or 6 clicks, in the recommendations, I'll find some spiritual book. And I'll say, how does this, because I was looking for science fiction / zombie type books, right? How did this practicing love and compassion or this book come here? And then I'll click and I'll read it, the sample. It'll be like, wow, this is what I was looking for. And this has happened to me many times. I'm looking for something else. On YouTube, I'll be looking at funny cat videos. On my side, I'll find something vaguely spiritual. I click on it, I'll get bored on it, click the next one, and until I find something really powerful. I'm like, oh my God, this video or this podcast answers the question I've been looking for, last 2 weeks or 2 months. That's how your inner self guides you, takes you where you need to go. But we still have to fight our own inner battle. The battle is always ours. We have to have courage. We have to face down the, our own negative thoughts, the blind king, and we have to deal with it because we created this crap. And so we have to get out of it. And the universe can make our life easy if we want for that. So in my own example, when I started meditating, I was like, oh, it's so hard. I have to go to work. I don't have money. And I was meditating, and I got this inner guidance. The inner teacher, the guide said, if you just do the inner work, I'll take care of this other crap for you, job and everything. At that time, I was unemployed, and I was running out of money, and I was in a very desperate state. This was in 2017 when I had my big jump, spiritual jump. And I was like, yeah, that's going to happen. And the guidance I kept getting was, keep doing the inner work, leave the other crap to me. I said, okay. And I kept doing the inner work, even though it was very scary. Because, every day, my relatives are, oh, have you found a job yet? Have you found a job yet? It was so humiliating saying, no, not yet. Not yet, no. And, every day I was looking at the bank balance and going, ooh, down, 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 down. And when you're facing shit like that, then sitting and meditating is really fucking hard. And that's why it really pisses me off, the people, spiritual type, will say, money is evil, money doesn't make you spiritual, money doesn't make you happy. Oh, yes, it does. Yes, money does make you happy. I had a time when, I had no money in my bank, and it was really damn hard to meditate. And now that I have money in the bank, I can chill and meditate. If I don't have a job, that's fine. I've got tons of money in the bank. So the universe can help you. If you have to ask the universe for help, obviously. If you're facing financial problems, you can say, universe, I want to do the inner work, but I can't if I'm constantly struggling with, finances. And the universe will help you. It won't be immediate. It won't be overnight. It might take a few weeks, months. But the universe will not let you, starve or suffer in any way. It'll always find somebody will always come up and lend you money, or you'll find a short-time job, or you'll find some small business that'll help you along. So the universe always helps you. It'll help you in the material world. It won't, so that you can focus on the inner war, the war of the Gita. There is a war with our own self, the war with our own mind. One more thing related to this. When you really start making progress, the ego will throw everything at you. It'll attack you with all its weapons and everything. And your outer world might go to shit or hell, and your inner world is going to hell as well. And that's when you need real courage to continue on the spiritual path. It requires real courage. And if you start meditating, you'll find your life might go even worse to hell. And at that time it's the hardest, but you need to stick with it. And you don't have to sit and meditate. You can just, every day 2 minutes, just sit down and thank the universe and ask for guidance. That's more than enough. Just sitting for 2 minutes and asking, universe, please guide me. What should I do next? What should I do next? Because ultimately, for every step that we take, the universe takes 1,000 steps. But we do have to take that one step. If you just sit on your arse, the universe won't do anything for you. But if you take one step, the universe will take 1,000 steps to match you. So the best thing you can do is have courage and stick with the path. The whole universe is guiding you. It'll take you where you need to go and what you need to do, how you need to do it. But don't forget, it's not a literal war, because you're not trying to kill the ego. The ego is you, like I've said. It's your own child. You created it. And then the ego created all these negative thoughts. But the fact is, you created it. You cannot fight yourself. You have to fight it with love and compassion. But when you're in the middle of it, it does look like a war. And the war metaphor is very apt for this. If you've ever faced, mental problems, you're trying to meditate or you're trying to drive and you're having all these angry thoughts, you're like, shut up, get out of my head, get out of my head. You know what I'm talking about. It's a literal war going on inside your head. And 99% of people of the world don't even realize this war. It's only the few people who sit down for 2 minutes to meditate, they realize that, oh shit, I've got this crap going on in my head for all this time. And so it is like a war. It feels like a war, but it is not a war, because the ultimate goal is not to kill or destroy the ego, because the ego is a part of you. And if you kill it, you're hurting yourself. The ultimate goal is to make peace with the inner self, the part of you that's hateful and angry and self-loathing. And the universe guides how to do it. It'll even for every step it'll take 1,000. So it's not that hard. It does take time. Because like I keep saying, if you're 35 years old, for example, and you last started meditating last week, your ego has 35 years experience in fighting you, and you've got 1 week experience. So you're literally like a little baby trying to fight a grown man. And normally it wouldn't be possible, and you would lose every time, but you don't, because you're not alone, and the universe is helping you. You've got a secret helper. You've got a superhero in the back willing to fight for you. And that's why it is possible. The inner war can be won. It will be won for you as well. It'll take time. It'll take courage is the most important thing. It requires extreme courage to face uncertainty, to face your own demons, and just stare down at them. Stare down your own abyss, as it were. And try to change it with love and compassion. It's hard, but it's doable. And you will win the inner war eventually. I can't say when, next week, next month, but you will win it. If you want to win it faster, you need to trust the inner teacher, the inner guider, inner guidance, the universal intelligence that's trying to help you. The more you trust it, the easier it becomes, the faster it becomes. And if you don't know how to do it, the easy way to start is with humility and thankfulness. Say, right, universe, I'm ready for this. Show me what to do next. Yeah, show me the power. Yeah, and the universe will start telling you first step, next step, next step. And then you have to have the courage to trust the universe and walk on that path. And it still won't be easy, but it gets easier, and it gets more calmer as time goes along. The more you start trusting your higher self, because remember, it's not something outside, not some god outside of you. It's your own higher self. It's your own being that's helping you. It's your own inner teacher, who is you for all practical reasons, who's helping you, not something out there. And it's your own self, so it loves you and it wants you to succeed. And the best way to succeed is to put yourself in harmonic vibration, raise your consciousness, so you're one with your own self. You're no longer fighting yourself. So yeah, that was it. It was just a quick introduction to the war that the Gita alludes to, that happens inside of us. And thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me. I'm grateful.